From the presentations, but I think what I find at these events, and I'm guilty of this myself, is that the presenters want to talk a lot about what they've achieved and all the good things that have happened, but actually what the audience wants to hear is the difficulties that they face, because we're all working in much the same kind of environment here really. And so I think the better dialogue is not so much about these great things that have been achieved, but the process that's been going through, the difficulties that have been overcome, the innovations in those kind of approaches that have allowed them to arrive at those good solutions.
Thanks, Andy. Have you gone to any presentations that have kind of dug a little bit deeper, or are you hoping some other things you might come to might do that? Are you anything you're looking forward to?
I think I don't mean to say that all presentations are like that. But I think it's the standard model. I mean, we all feel under pressure to talk about how good we're doing, so that the funding keeps flowing, and so that we get the level of recognition we're looking for. The point I'm making is simply that I think if this is really about learning and development, then the bit that we really need to learn more about is the process of difficulty and overcoming barriers. We've talked for a quarter of a century now about partnership, as if all you need to do is to get people in the same room and they will all start agreeing with each other. Yeah. My experience of the world is slightly different from that. It would be good to acknowledge that fact and to say that partnerships are conflicted with interests, personalities, power, histories, culture, all sorts of stuff that make that work really, really valuable but really, really difficult. And there's a balance between working away at that partnership model and just striking out on your own and doing what you do best and let other people come to you.
The last speaker we heard did speak a bit about risk.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe we're not talking about just how risky it is and how you face those.
I think he made a very good point, which I don't mind saying. I've made myself occasionally, is that in the private sector there's an inbuilt understanding that risk exists, and in any enterprise risk will be a part of the cosmos to be dealt with, and there's no problem with that, and we can calibrate investments and returns and timescales based on how we perceive the level of that risk. In the community centre, in the centre of communities, in the community sector, risk is off the table, and it's really off the table because the funders and politicians who give small amounts of money to communities they don't trust the communities essentially. They think people are going to steal the money, they think they're going to misuse the money. They're terrified of the local media, particularly the local press, and so risk is just not possible. And politicians do come and talk about, we need to be more innovative, we need to take risk. But actually, when everybody does take a risk on the community side of things, they end up lambasted in the front of the evening paper with no protection from those same politicians, and they are driven away from any possibility of re-engaging with community enterprise again in the future. So we need to rebalance our understanding and our rhetoric around that a bit. And I think if we're going to be enterprising, then that will inevitably involve a manageable degree of risk.
Thanks for sharing that with me.